industrial infrastructure for our new industrial nodes. I saw some of the mayors here, such as Roslyn, the new city, and the new city in Sidibeng, the river city, and the new city in the West Rand. So the mayors who are here, part of this focus on infrastructure investment is raising industrial infrastructure. We also look at raising funding for water and energy infrastructure, and again, the leaders of local government who are here are our partners in this regard, because without adequate provision for water and energy, we can't regard ourselves as a province that's at the cutting edge of development in our continent. We also will, in the July Infrastructure Investment Conference, as we did in 2015, we'll look at expanding broadband access. And that's a broadband connectivity throughout the province. That's an important part of modern infrastructure, including social infrastructure, including for new government precincts, as well as schools, hospitals, sporting facilities, and libraries. So this infrastructure investment conference, which focuses on human settlements as a start, comes at the right time, because we have agreed with the MEC that it will also be utilized to prepare much better for the human settlement sector for that July infrastructure investment conference, which has an international orientation. We did in 2015 bring a lot of international investors from Asia, Europe, and North America. So essentially, what you are doing here, including the appetite that's there, including the deals, MEC, I hope there will be some deals and partnerships that will emerge here so that it is not a talk shop. You will be far readier than the other sectors, our transport sector, ICT sector, the other industrial infrastructure sectors led by MEC Mahile. You will be much far readier as the human settlement sector. I want to remind you that in our province we have the infrastructure master plan, the 15-year Gauteng infrastructure master plan. And this master plan assumes that we can only deliver on infrastructure in partnership with the private sector. We did in 2015 indicate that we are going to need 1.7 trillion rands, 1.7 trillion rands to invest in both old and new infrastructure to build the kind of Gauteng we would like to have. So in this regard, the work that's being done by the Gauteng Partnership Fund is an important dimension of the work being done by the Gauteng Infrastructure Funding Agency, that's called GIFA. That is the sister agency of the GPF, also working with the Department of Infrastructure Development. Substantial progress have already been made in this regard, because we have some bankable projects that have already been packaged that have gone to the market, and some of them in the areas of energy are already underway. Industrial parks, there's private sector, key private sector participation there. Public transport, such as the expansion of the Gautrain, there's already key participation of the public, like the DBSA in there, and private sector in organizations. And lastly, the government precinct that has been talked about for a while. Again, there, the PIC, I don't know if there's the PIC here, MEC. I know that you have been talking to them quite a lot. The PIC as a key investment agency that invests in property will also be our key partner in this regard. Just to come back to the question of mega human settlements, I think the MEC and I and the team in the province, Team Gauteng, have had a lot of discussion on what we need to do to get the mega human settlements at the level that we need. And the intervention about mega human settlements is important to address the housing backlog. And I would like to take this opportunity once more to congratulate all of you who are participating here, particularly business people, developers, those in the construction sector, those who are in the professional services, various professional services, because you are our key players. Without you, we can't deliver on our infrastructure plan, but we can't deliver on any of our plans as a province. I hope that we will emerge from this summit with very concrete partnerships that will take us closer to our vision of changing particularly the human settlement landscape and building new post-apartheid cities in our province. And probably this is a vision that many of you may have heard us talk about previously in the State of the Province address. I want to take this opportunity just to restate some of the important issues that are part of our 10-pillar program for transformation, modernization, and reindustrialization. And this is a program through which we strive to build a Gauteng province that is highly integrated, that's economically inclusive, that's socially cohesive and globally competitive. A province that continues to be an economic hub that has leading world-class infrastructure. Many of you would know the saying that investment in the state-of-the-art infrastructure is not a luxury, but a necessity that offers citizens the chance to enjoy good quality of life and enables industries to be globally competitive and continuously modernize. For industries cannot position themselves globally if they're located in spaces where infrastructure is backward, and citizens cannot enjoy a good quality of life in today's world if they are in spaces where there's underinvestment or no investment in infrastructure. It's also important to understand that infrastructure investment contributes directly to economic growth in general and job creation in particular, including in specific localities where that infrastructure is being built. Infrastructure investment, or the infrastructure spend, is also a key driver for economic empowerment of the previously disadvantaged or historically excluded, and thus contribute decisively to economic transformation. So our expectation on investment in infrastructure deals with both the specific issues that we face as a nation, as a people, but also what economies elsewhere in the world and in the continent face. And I want to share with you some information, data about how we have been doing on infrastructure investment in the province, but also the performance of this infrastructure investment. Between 2013 and 2016, the Gauteng provincial government invested 30 billion rands in infrastructure in the space of Gauteng, and this excludes the municipalities. So the 30 billion rands exclude the municipalities. And I know in the combined value of municipal investments in infrastructure, it's almost the same amount, between 25 and 30 billion rands. So we spend 30 billion rands, municipalities in Gauteng spend between 25 and 30 billion rands. So in the Gauteng space, we have put in almost 60 billion rands, between 50 and 60 billion rands. I want to share with you what the performance of that investment is. So if you put 30 billion rands in an economy or in a locality or in a municipality, 5 billion rands, whatever amount you put, what happens in that space? And why is it so important that we must push feverishly investment in infrastructure? what are the other benefits? So just to account for the 30 billion rands that we have spent in Gauteng in that period. So for that 30 billion rands, the following things have happened. And I say to you, I exclude the municipalities. 92,000 direct jobs were created out of the investment of the 30 billion rands. So if you, to put it differently, if we didn't put that investment in infrastructure, we will be minus 92,000 jobs in the Gauteng economy. And this is government-driven infrastructure investment, even before we talk about private sector-driven or SOEs, state-owned enterprises and municipalities. In addition, out of that 30 billion rands, 15 billion rands went directly to household incomes. So when you put some investment in infrastructure, if you build a school, it's very important to understand what does that school do? What does the building of the school do to that locality? It's not just that the children now have a school to go to, they go. Yes, that's another important, but there are other direct. So out of that 30 billion rands, 15 billion rands went directly to household incomes. 26 billion rands generated additional economic activity. And again, this is very important. So putting 30 billion rands has got other cumulative impact on the rest of the Gauteng economy. And 6 billion rands went to government revenue. So when we put 30 billion rands, we got in return 6 billion rands directly to government. So it does also boost revenue. And I think the one I like most is that every 1 rand that's invested in infrastructure, and in Gauteng province, every 1 rand of this 30 billion rands we put, 92 cents of that went directly to stimulate other types of economic activity. So in addition to having a school, a hospital, a library, a road, houses, in addition to those things through which the economy and people directly benefit, 92 cents of every cent we put went to do other things in the Gauteng economy, stimulated economic activity. And lastly, 91% of the money we have spent on infrastructure has largely gone to boost black HDIs, essentially black businesses of different scale. So on our infrastructure budget, I'm glad to say that we spend 91% of that essentially supporting, including SMMEs, DG from SMME department, including township enterprises, including women-owned businesses, including youth-owned enterprises. There's a different issue that I'll come back to about their sustainability. So MEC Mashatile, over the next 3 years, we will spend 46 billion rands on infrastructure as the Gauteng provincial government. Now I exclude the municipalities again. I exclude the state-owned enterprises again. Just as the Gauteng provincial government will spend 46 billion rands on infrastructure, and to deal with all those different areas of infrastructure I've made reference to. And again, to emphasize that it is through the infrastructure investment that we want to significantly drive economic empowerment, which includes what we have been saying over, it's 3 years now, radical economic transformation. Very interesting. Radical economic transformation has just become fashionable now. Very, very fashionable. And I heard another gentleman saying he started radical economic transformation. I don't know where he was when we first spoke about radical economic transformation. There's a friend of mine, Mr. Fuchs here, a member of the provincial legislature, who always talks in the legislature about infrastructure investment and radical economic transformation. You know, Mr. Fuchs, so Saudi can't be right that he started radical economic transformation. He surely can't be right. Even our friends in opposition know that he didn't start it. We started it. But ours does not scare investors. I want to emphasize that. Ours doesn't scare investors. We do need investors. We do need private sector investors in this. But private sector investors understand and have to understand that we do need economic transformation, and that we can't build an economy where black people are outside that economy. So in this regard, ladies and gentlemen, we're very happy that the partnership that many of you are here to discuss will help us reshape not just the economy of our province, but also the space in this province. Spatial, it is economic transformation, but it is also spatial transformation. And in fact, it is through mega human settlements that we can decisively reshape the way Gauteng looks. When we made an announcement about our vision for human settlement, mega human settlements, and post-apartheid cities, especially after the 2014 elections and followed through in 2015 State of the Province address, I must say there was a lot of excitement, particularly from developers, which I see here today, MEC. I'm told that there were supposed to be 200 people here. Initially, you kept increasing. People just arrived in large numbers. And this appetite by private sector participants, black and white, to be on the cutting edge, to be part of this project of infrastructure investments and changing the spatial and economic landscape of our province, it's really deeply appreciated. So I want to emphasize again that the idea of mega human settlements is essentially part of the 10-pillar program, which we outlined in 2014 of the 10-pillar program of radical transformation, modernization, and reindustrialization of Gauteng, especially to look at the economy, the space, but also to change the way we build human settlements and cities going forward. And I just want to use this opportunity to share with you some of the dimensions, the economic, spatial, social, and ecological dimensions of this notion of mega human settlements. And we're saying that there are a number of things that we must unpack about mega human settlements. Some of the issues have to do with scale, others have to do with location, some with design, others with densification, and as well as integration. And I know the MEC spoke a bit earlier on around this. So I've got 5 key imperatives I want to share with you about the different dimensions of mega human settlements. So how do we change the way Gauteng looks going forward using infrastructure investments across all areas of infrastructure, but most decisively, it is in human settlements that we can change the way our province looks. So firstly, it's important that we should understand that the way we have delivered houses in the past cannot be sustained. Because in a province like ours, we have delivered 1.2 million houses since 1994, but the backlog remains stubborn and static. The last time I checked with the MEC, he was saying we did our full reconciliation. It's somewhere between 400,000 and 600,000. And I tend to take a safer bet and say 600,000 is the backlog. So even if we have delivered, the largest number of houses delivered in any province were delivered here. But even as we did that, we almost like standing. There's still people who were on that list from 1996. So someone may be tempted to say there's no housing delivered. But you don't know what the problem is. The more we deliver, the more others abandon the list in the provinces where things are very, very slow. They come and join the list here because they think if we are here, it will get to us much closer. So one of the reasons we decided we must change the approach to human settlements delivery and housing delivery is to respond to the high rate of urbanization and in-migration. And herein, MMCs and officials from housing. So MEC, herein comes this idea, concept you have of legacy projects. So you have these small projects all over the province. Some of them have been under construction for long, and they are preventing us from going into mega projects. In other words, those of scale. So, Ma'am Simang, if you build 500 here, 500 there, you will never respond to the scale of the challenge in Swan. The same thing in Sidibeng, Ma'am Disakeng, and in the West Rand, Ma'am Aneli. You would, if you build 100 here, as we often do, another 200 there, and another 500 there, maybe another 1,000, we cannot respond to this. The people don't feel that things are moving. So this is what in the MEC and his team call the legacy projects. So we have to complete those because many of them have been there, but we need to move to scale. Big numbers, large-scale projects, large-scale developments are important. So the first thing we must understand is that scale is important. If we build only in small numbers, we will not resolve the problem. So in the mega projects, the first thing about that is that we need to move to scale. And MEC, I know we have had a number of discussions in the deliverology program as well. I would like to go back to the idea that anything less than 10,000 units, so any projects that yield less than 10,000 units is not high, it's not big enough. It mustn't be called mega. It must be called project. So mega have to be between 10,000 and 30,000, like Safer Fontaine that we're working with the West Rand on, that will go up to 30,000 or 40,000, one development, that's mega. And you know that when it is concluded, it will make a big dent on the backlog in that area. So that's the first thing. Scale, it's very, very important. We have to move from small numbers. I know business people, you are here, you sometimes get, you know, the smaller guys, you get 200 there, 500 there, you're okay. And another 1,000 there, you're okay. You can't carry too much. But we must worry about scale. How you get brought in there based on your capacity is not our worry. Yes, we must worry that you must be empowered. But if we keep doing small, we will get nowhere. I think we will even age and retire when the backlog is still 600,000, probably grow. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we must deal with urban sprawl. The idea that you can just drop houses all over, and these houses you just drop in the middle of the veld. So we are not building towards compact spaces. We're not densifying. It's just one house here, one house there. This is not a rural area. We are in an urban setting, I must remind you. So we can't build, so the mega human settlements must also help us address urban sprawl, not just drop. I know that in rural areas where I was born, we are used to this thing of I have my own unit and my own piece of land. Please, man, let's have that in the rural areas. Here, space is important. We have to build compact, but building infrastructure investments in compact spaces is also more efficient. So, Pascal, I know from Human Settlements National, when you put funding for is it bulk, you often, it's cheaper to do funding for bulk when it is put in one area, smaller space, and it will yield larger numbers. But if you have to do bulk for projects where houses are like, I often see in KZN or the Eastern Cape, you see one house is this side of the mountain and the next house is that side on top of the mountain. We can't build like that in the city. So compact, Mega human settlements must go with compaction of our cities and densification, which means building up. So that, you see, those projects where we emphasize building up, we have to go up. And one of the reasons is because there's not enough land. Gauteng occupies only 1.4% of the land mass of South Africa. I know when you look at it, you think, we have vast land. What is the Premier talking about? From Hammanskraal to Vereeniging. He says we don't have enough land. When people drive there, no, we don't. This is not enough land. We don't have enough land, especially because we must use this land for different things. So we must use this land in a very purposeful way because it's human settlements, industrial nodes, it's agriculture. We must also have space to do urban agriculture. We must use this land for many, many things, economic, social, as well as accommodating our people in there. So I want to leave. So the second important thing on mega is densification. So density is important. Not just one small project here and then you say it's a mega. Density is pretty important. The third important issue about this mega human settlements is we have to do away with this idea of putting people in far-flung places. Build nice housing project, but it is far from everything. It's a dormitory. They go there and sleep. There's no economic opportunities. There's no transport in that area. So the third thing about this mega human settlements definition is that we have to ensure that location is closer to economic opportunities and public transport mode. So when we have a development there, we must get our planners to say, where will there be transport in this area? It's not, and where will the people work? Where is economic activity? Because if you dump people, even if you have the cheapest land, but it is in far-flung places, and you build the most beautiful set of houses there, that place during the day, it will be empty, and people will only be going there at night because they are going to be forced to go and work elsewhere. So one really important definition is that we must integrate economic activity in these areas. And I know developers, MEC developers will say, but you know, when land is very expensive next to economic activity. We know that. Even us as government, we can't build away from economic nodes. We have to insist about integrating our people closer to where economic opportunities are. And sometimes choose the land that may be expensive in price, but we need a development in that area. There may be an industrial area where there's no housing opportunities in that area. So even that is important. There are many industrial areas I see. Again, the mayor of Tshwane, Roslyn, the people in Roslyn travel to the north of Tshwane. So Shanguve, okay, is much closer. Mabopane up to Hammanskraal. But we need to, now that we are building a city in Roslyn, we need to have earmark an area right in that important economic node for human settlement, to put a mega human settlement. So there are issues of land prices and all that. I don't want to enter that, MEC. I'll leave those to MEC Mashatile. The issues of the cost of land in areas that are like that. But we can't build away from economic opportunities and keep using the arguments like that. We are just dumping our people away from the means of survival, and it will be very important to maintain them. The other important thing, I know many of us celebrated this human settlement, one of the first in Gauteng, Cosmo. But let me tell you, the problem with Cosmo is that we build houses there, beautiful settlement, but there's no other important facilities. There's no other important infrastructure. The people of Cosmo complain there's no hospital there. There's not even a clinic. So So what am I adding there, MEC? A mega human settlement must be a total project that includes not just how units, but there should also be questions about schools, healthcare infrastructure, where is the police station going to be, HOD of DID, where are the government offices going to be, so that people don't spend the whole day going to another place where they have access to government. So government precincts would also be very, very important. Now, I know that it complicates the work of housing. So you'd say, but these guys, we can't guarantee a police station, so we want it to be there. We want the school to be there, but we can't guarantee they are going to hold us back. But if we want to build settlements that are habitable, that are livable, we have to address all those contradictions, including where are people going to work. Lastly, I think it's also important that our human settlements, I like speaking about design issues, but they must also be ecologically sound. You know, aesthetic designs. This notion that black people don't like, they really don't like beautiful things, you know. You architects and designers sitting here, so your human settlements, MEC Mashatile, look at the design. I know you're going to open the exhibition. I'm interested in the design. The aesthetics of that. Young people who are mainly the people who are coming into a province like ours, they don't want places that are built that look so bad, but also ecological, the environment around these places. So the aesthetic designs and they have to be ecologically attractive as a mega human settlement. There's one MEC who likes mentioning this. You know, MEC Mashatil, you know when you go to the East Asia, you fly over Hong Kong on those buildings. They almost like the same size when you are flying. You know what I mean? In Hong Kong and in Singapore. And they designed, and in China, I must add, these are designed so well, but also the environment around them are habitable, because that's where we want our people to live. That's where people must raise families. These places must look pretty well organized from the design stage. So these post-apartheid cities must also integrate black and white. This idea that when we build, and I'll tell you where we have a problem, those who live in the townships designed by apartheid, we always fight with the people in Easter's, in Easter's. When we say to them, you don't have housing, but you will get your housing opportunity in Mamelodi, they think, no, we can't go to Mamelodi. It was not meant for us. So you must come and build in Easter's, or you must come, Ashraf, you must come and build in lands. We must design with an intention, build and design with an intention to integrate our people. So we must have a mega human settlement where black, white, South Africans who need housing, who qualify for housing, must be accommodated. And I know I may be accused here of social engineering, but apartheid was social engineering. To undo it will require social engineering. So these human settlements, so this is my last point on mega human settlements. We must deliberately allocate people in a way that breaks down the walls, the racial walls we have had in the past, including narrow-mindedness. I can't be accommodated in a new house if I qualify outside Middlelands. Mina, where Alex, if I don't get a house in Alex, angifuni lendo leo. People tell me in the meetings, in the public meetings, I will only accept a house. I was born in Alex. My parents are lying there in Alex. I will not agree to get a housing opportunity in another place, because the ghosts will wake up and look for me at night. So we must also deliberately, this notion that including municipal boundaries, and I create another problem for you, MEC, but I think that project called the one in the south, Savannah City. So we must also build to integrate people from different, this notion that you are only, when we build a human settlement, some of these mega human settlements must be for beneficiaries across the boundaries of municipalities. That's the only way through which we will be able to address at a pace the housing backlog in our province. So on that note, I really want to appreciate the contribution that this infrastructure investment summit that's focusing on post-apartheid cities and human settlements will face. Of course, you can't talk about investment in infrastructure without talking about the downgrade. So we certainly have experienced over the last few weeks, and we may go through even the worst if Moody's goes in the same direction. So issues of investments, when you're talking about investments in infrastructure or investment, the investment status of the sovereign does matter, especially for international investors. Of course, it also matters for the local investors. We know that South Africans like scoring their own goals. We know this is what's called a self-inflicted pain. This downgrade, self-inflicted, I don't mean everybody participated in inflicting that pain, but it is still, however, self-inflicted because it could have been avoided. So what we have, now that we are here, I don't think it helps to say to avoid where we are. We have to do everything to work in partnership with the private sector like we are doing here, MEC Mashatile, to address all the issues that are important for investor confidence, for raising confidence. Municipalities, I know when the sovereign is downgraded, you can't do much. You and us are affected when the sovereign is downgraded. But there are a lot of things we can do together to still increase the level of appetite in investment, in the projects in our specific localities, the level of business confidence in our plans as we implement them, including on how we govern. There are a lot of things we can do. One of those things which in the province we have been dealing is just to make sure we utilize public resources very, very efficiently and now ensure there's no waste, but also deal with corruption wherever it finds itself, but also use more transparent, open processes to make decisions about allocation of resources, like, for instance, the open tender system. And I want to encourage you as you join in this partnership on these mega projects and other infrastructure projects that you can trust, work with us. We make decisions transparently. We make decisions in a way that there's no comeback. Someone can come later and cancel these contracts because we have made them in a way that withstand the test of time. Transparently, these partnerships that we will have with you on this in a way that cannot be reversed by another administration because, as I say, they have withstood the test of time. We also deal with issues. Later, Sbu Kaba is going to deal with issues, an issue of red tape. MEC Mashatile is in addition assigned the responsibility by me to deal with red tape. Business hates red tape. And I can tell you, business people, that you have partners in the hatred for red tape. We join you in the hatred for red tape. You don't want to be sent from pillar to post and decisions are never made. Projects never start because you are still waiting for government decisions. So MEC Mashatile has been assigned the responsibility. Who is going to share with you this. On behalf of our provincial government and working with municipalities, we want to cut red tape in decision-making in Gauteng, in the whole province. Cut red tape, eliminate red tape. So, for example, if you want to build, people used to wait for 3 years, up to 3 years for this thing called the EIA. We have cut that EIA waiting period now to only 3 months. So from 3 years to 3 months now. Yeah, you get your EIA in the shortest space of time. MC Maile is saying to me that, Premier, we can get to 30 days on the EIA because we now have a Gauteng, the macro EIA for the whole province. That's what these issues about our spatial development plan is about. We now know for the whole province, where do we want to do what? Where do we want to build what? Where do we want economic nodes? Where do we want other infrastructure? So the EIA can be concluded in 30 days in that shortest space of time. But there are other areas of red tape which MEC Mashatile is dealing with, and Sbu will share with us those in the meanwhile in a very, very short space of time. So I want to emphasize that for us also, investing in infrastructure will help us. These public resources, the 46 billion rands cannot just be deployed, and it doesn't help us achieve other important goals. What are those? Economic transformation. There's really no turning back for us. We want to deploy the 46 billion rands to bring greater numbers of black people, women, young people into the mainstream of our economy. And infrastructure is an important area where already a lot of black businesses are playing into, some as construction companies, others as professional services companies. But we need to do more. And MEC, I think, as we go forward with the mega human settlements, we need to bring to ensure black participation in the material side of housing and human settlements construction. Because let me tell you a secret. Many of you who are in construction, most of your money goes to material, getting materials, buying that materials, and most of the material you buy from our white counterparts. So most of the money, by the time you finish building, you are really going to pay the guys who gave you the materials to build. And you are not salary change, you remain with a small amount. We need black participation in the material space. So this, whether it's windows or all the human settlements and infrastructure, all the material there, we need black industrialists in there so that we can see significant black participation in that space as well. By the time one house is complete, we should count what black participation in that one house is in a very meaningful way. And that will also help us with industrialization. These materials, we have built many houses, 1.2 million houses, but we have not helped to regenerate industries that are linked to construction. And that includes steel. Our steel industry is facing a serious crisis, but we are consuming steel every day. Every day, every little infrastructure project, we are consuming steel there. But the South African steel industry is not getting revitalized. Where are we getting the steel? We get our cheapest steel from China. So you are black, we appoint you as a black company, but you go and source everything from China, and we lose salary change. By the time you finish that project, salary change. Most 90% of the money has left the country. And where is industrialization? And therefore, we're not driving job creation in that regard. How are we helping to stimulate our local industries in the material sector as part of localization and increasing black participation? So let me conclude by saying, I want to remind you that we are not a small economy. Ashraf, as we meet here, the World Economic Forum on Africa is meeting, and is important, and amongst other issues they are discussing, it's also the conditions of the economies in our own continent. And we, in our country, we should be very keen that a new development is the downgrade, but I can say the Gauteng economy is still very resilient and attractive of investment. Between 2014 and 2016, we attracted 69 billion rands of investment through the hard work of our agencies such as the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency and the Investment Center. Of course, the question is how much will the downgrade, if it finally comes in its full swing, what will be the impact of it? We must continue to fight to ensure we are a preferred investment destination as a province. We constitute 35% to our country's economy and 62% to national exports. We are the key engine for the modern part of the African economy as Gauteng province, contributing 10% to Africa's GDP. And unfortunately, we have moved back, Ashraf, from the third. At that time, the former premier was speaking, we were the third biggest economy. We are the fifth biggest economy. Not because we didn't grow. It's just that others grew faster than us. Fifth coming after Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Algeria. So if we were a country, we would be sitting there in Durban right now as the fifth biggest economy. Bigger than 50 other African countries, if we were a country. So we are not sitting in Durban because we are not a country. There are other important things that we would like to do, work together with business. And I want to emphasize that the private sector is 80% of South Africa's economy. Without the private sector, we can't get anywhere. And this notion of bashing the private sector does not exist in our province. We value private sector participation. We value partnerships with the private sector. Without that, we can't get anywhere. And I want to emphasize also about economic transformation. Without big business helping us, we can empower black companies through public procurement, but it may not be sustainable unless they also come into the value chains and supply chains of big business. So we will contribute to empowering black businesses, but we want big business to also understand it must have an obligation to open up opportunities for these township enterprises, for black companies, opportunities for them to come into the value chains of big business. That's where real money is. We're only sitting with some change as government. The real big money is in the private sector. And we hope, working together with business, we can do quite a lot in achieving this goal. Gauteng is open for business. We mean business. MEC Mashatile, we want to turn our province into a permanent construction site and let the cranes go up everywhere in Gauteng. Thank you very much.